to your ship, and then you can choose what units you want to upgrade, and you won't be able to get everything. You'll have to sort of decide what you want to pursue. And I think that's a really, really cool dynamic that a lot of other RTS games lacks. Like, what do you think of that?
I actually would prefer it if I could buy all the upgrades. That way I could have everything. But
that's very typical thing for you to say. As you buy every game and every collector's edition.
Yeah, pretty much. But I like it that you have to pick and choose. My favorite unit is the Thor, and I have both upgrades for the Thor.
Side note on the Thor. The Thor sounds exactly like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's absolutely hilarious. Like, it's just like one of the times when you'll select it, it'll be like, "I'm here, click me."
That's like
click me if you want to live.
That is my favorite unit in the game so far.
That's the dynamic I really like about having the ship. Like this, and I also really love having choices in the storyline, and they're not. I don't want to talk, shit about Mass Effect, because Mass Effect was one of my favorite games that came out this year. But it doesn't give you those binary choices like this is going to be the good choice and this is going to be the evil choice. If you can choose this, and this could, maybe save some lives, but if it goes wrong, it could potentially, harm even more people. And are you looking out for the greater good? Are you looking out for the good of your ship? And it's those sorts of choices that I wasn't really expecting to get from an RTS game, but it really made... I can definitely say, having played as far as I've gotten into, that StarCraft 2 is by far the best RTS storyline I've ever seen. And I never think Blizzard disappoints with storylines, but this has definitely raised the bar beyond.
Usually storylines are MIA for your RTS game.
Yeah. I know. And they're pretty notorious. Even if you look at Warcraft 3, it had a pretty solid storyline for a RTS game, especially for the time.
Yeah.
But if you look at StarCraft, you can definitely see they've gone leaps and bounds beyond what they've previously done.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Possible Creatures had a storyline.
Yeah, sure, I'm sure.
But no one cares about that game, so yeah.
But I do want to get on the one thing that is a little... I heard brought up, and it didn't affect me at first, but now that I think about it, it really does kind of affect me. When you have this hub world where you interact with all your characters in a unique and personal way, and then you go to the battlefield, you almost have this sort of disconnect, because when you have a bunch of units that are basically, expendable, when you don't have the same emotional investment that you have playing the game as you do in the hub world between the missions. And I sort of like they might be saying something on the ship which seems really important and relevant, but then when you get back onto the levels, it doesn't necessarily apply. And that sort of disconnect is something that I feel like there's something they had to choose when they were making the storyline, but I still think it was the right decision. Mm-hmm. Like, did you ever feel that at all, Rans?
It was like I would say that it was a little disconnect, but like nothing that like made me
not want to play it.
Think differently of like the game or anything. Like it didn't really matter to me as much. It was just kind of like a little nuisance, kind of really. It wasn't really. Yeah. It wasn't a huge impact, is what
I think eventually they sort of start to realize this, and without spoiling specifically what happens, sometimes the events you'll do on the ground will have a bearing or an impact on what's going on in his ship. Like, for example, in one mission, you'll make a choice on something which will ultimately affect what mission you'll be playing, and then at the end of that mission, the events that you've done on the ground will eventually affect some of the crew members on your ship. And I think that's the dynamic where it all comes together really well. And I think it's really something that's hard to understand unless you really see it in action, but I personally was blown away by the campaign.
So is the multiplayer just 100 hours addicting, Is it that good?
Would you like to start, Rans?
I think it's going to be definitely a game that I'm just going to keep going back to time and time again.
Oh, yeah.
Just like all Blizzard games.
Especially when I get StarCraft 2, because I'll be getting the Mac version, so...
I'm technically, this is my first real Blizzard game that I'm getting into. I had Diablo 2, and I had Diablo, but I didn't really play those as much. Yes, Hellcraft. So I mean, this is the first like Blizzard game I actually put more than 1 hour in. So I got
That's an achievement right there.
Yeah, and I mean, I gotta say, I mean, some of those achievements that they have in Starcraft.
Yeah, I that was sort of an accidental thing, but that's definitely something that should be noted. I really like the way the achievement system is set up in Starcraft. I mean, no, it doesn't translate into my Xbox Live achievements or anything, but it's like this sense of accomplishment. Like, yeah, you could only beat the level, but if you do a few more extra objectives, you'll get an achievement, and then that could unlock a new portrait for your character in multiplayer, and that can add new decals. Like, there's different things that sort of give you more incentive to do more than just the bare minimum, and I really appreciate that from the game. It sort of gets me, like, to get
motivated
more from the single player experience.
Yes, but at the same time, it doesn't give another player an advantage,
Yes.
which I kind of find good.
I also like that.
That it gives them more stuff, more
It's more of a
rewards.
cosmetic thing.
Yeah, but it doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form. Where you start off with an extra 500 minerals or 3 units on the field.
An extra 500 minutes.
Plus, it's always good when you
Yeah.
kill like 1,000,000 units in like 1 minute, and then a little thing pops up like "good job" or something.
Yeah.
You know, like that's always really satisfying.
Yeah, but sometimes it sucks when you're in the middle of a fight and all of a sudden like all these things start popping up. It's like, get the fuck away.
I never had that problem.
Wait, what if you were the one getting your ass kicked? Was it say, I really screwed this one
Better
up?
luck next time.
Achievement.
I was like,
you got a good
so close.
RTS is like this is like a typical RTS where like it really depends on how quickly you could do stuff, and it really depends on your build order and your build speed, and just basically how fast you can micromanage stuff, and like
So just basically, just on your execution, pretty much.
it's a really good RTS, but you really have to like pay attention. If you want like one of those RTSs where you can just sit there and stare at the screen for about 5 minutes before you actually start doing something, you're gonna lose. You're gonna get rushed. You're gonna die.
I think before we get deep into the game mechanics, I think the first thing you gotta note, and this is one of the things that shows that Blizzard's been, in the long time that Blizzard's been in development, they've certainly, changed along with the times by throwing in this matchmaking feature, which works seamlessly. Anyone who's a console gamer, plays Call of Duty or Halo and then wants to, get into StarCraft, I mean, there's a party system, everyone can chat with each other, you can join as a party, you have stats and matchmaking, you're placed into leagues, and I've never had a problem getting really into games, and I love the way it's set up, and it's by far the most robust matchmaking system I've ever seen for a strategy game.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset though, because I'm an average StarCraft 2 player, just an average RTS player in general, and I did 4v4 random a couple times, and it was mediocre. I lost like 3-1-2, and I was put in the gold league. I was like, damn it, no, all these good people every single time.
Yeah, how it works is after you leave the practice league, you basically play 5 placement matches, and then they'll try and put you into a league. If you're with a pair or if you're in 1v1s, and then they'll try and pair you against people that are around your skill level. I mean, sometimes what happens is you might do really well or really bad in your placement matches, and it might be a little off for a while, but then the game matchmaking is smart enough that eventually you'll be paired against people that are at your skill level.
So I think what we should do, in the placement settings, placement matches, do horribly. You put in the lowest setting, that way you can kill everything.
If you wanted to get a lot of unlocks and achievement reward things, then I guess that is the
That's
best way to
so
do it.
mean. You're like killing some 8-year-old in California.
But
mind his own business.
no, but that's pretty much the gist of the matchmaking. I really love how it's set up. But yeah, like Rands was saying, it's certainly not a game that's entirely casual, but I would say that I've heard some of the games that you or Overlord are willing to play. I mean, things like Company of Heroes, Ruse, Total War games, and like things like that.
Yeah.
That's like a different sort of art strategy game that requires a different sort of patience. And I think what StarCraft really knows is anyone who's familiar with the Warcraft, StarCraft, Age of Empires, sort of build your own base and then build an army to take over the other person's base. Anyone who's familiar with that formula will be right at home with StarCraft 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something I specifically really wanted from the game, and I was really happy